Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
You're listening to the Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Coming up on this show, we're talking British Columbia in Canada. There's part 2 of the 3-part series on using the internet to research holidays. And also, we're looking at hire cars. Are hire car companies really trying to rip you off? All coming up on the Guinn Travel Show. Hello dear listener, and welcome to the Guinn Travel Show. Coming up, I'll be talking about hire cars, but first, it's the second instalment of my lecture on using the internet to research travel. In the last show, I talked about how easy it is to make mistakes while booking travel online, and how to make sure that your money is safe, or at least to understand how much risk your money is at, depending on how you book your trip. For this show, I'm going to be talking about some of the basic checks you can make when you start researching your trip. Have you, dear listener, ever bought a second-hand car? If you did, I doubt that you just rung up and ordered it over the phone, just gave your credit card details out. I'm pretty sure that you went out and had a test drive of it, slammed the doors, kicked the tyres, had a look at the engine, pretended you knew what you were looking at. You can't do that with holidays, unfortunately. You have to pay up front. But you can use the internet to test drive your holiday by finding out what other people have found when they went staying at the hotel, flew with the airline, went to the restaurant, whatever. Because people are leaving reviews all over the place, which you can find and use to help make your buying decision. And there's also plenty of people out there who give travel advice too. So I'm going to start off with one particular website, and that is www.holidaytravelwatch.net. It's a website that offers great advice on the whole. There are one or two bits I don't agree with. It says only book with an ABTA member, whereas if you listened to my show last time, you found out that ABTA doesn't always mean that your money's the safest. But it does give you some advice about what to look for, and if you have complaints, this website makes its money by taking out class actions against travel companies. So if you go there and have a look, you can see what their latest action is. You can see whether you want to stay there or not. You want to book online, you're going to start researching, but it's very, very easy to get distracted. So before you start, have a brief outline and plan about what you want to do, what you want to find, what you're looking for. So what do you want to do while you're on holiday? Are you concerned about the weather? How far you want to fly? Where do you want to fly from? Food, whether you want a package holiday or whether you want to book it all separately to save money. Write it all down and then make sure that you stick to it, because you might get an email pop up with a video of a cute cat, and before you know it, you spent an hour or maybe 2 looking at other videos of cute cats. The plan will help keep you on track. So you can use the internet to research your trip. You can choose your destination, check out the weather, find the accommodation, transportation, about how you're going to get there. You can review the flight options, and of course my particular favourite, you're hungry, where are you going to eat? So back to the destination. Whatever you do, never ever use a travel brochure to make a decision about where you're going to go. The travel brochure and the booking website are just there to encourage you to make the booking decision. They could miss out some important information, which is what you're going to find when you use the internet. A travel brochure is only there to tell you what you're going to get should you book a holiday with that company. And you've got all the small print, which is going to explain why you're not going to get your money back. So don't use a brochure to make a decision, just to see what the contract's going to be. Then there are guidebooks. Guidebooks are great. You can read guidebooks in the bath or wherever else you like to read. You can't very easily read with a laptop in the bath unless you're very, very careful or very, very daft. But guidebooks have a few problems. They're out of date before they're printed, and they could be written by one person, so you've got somebody who doesn't really have the same interest as you having a blinkered view about a certain destination that could be completely pointless for you to read it. So with guidebooks, you need to buy 3 or 4 copies of different books to get a rounded view of the destination. Or of course you can use an online guidebook. Now online guidebooks aren't as comprehensive as a published printed one, because obviously a lot of the material on there is free and they need to make their money. But there are some guides out there, guide websites, which do have premium content to give you some more information if you need. But by using the internet, you can actually put together your guidebook tailored specifically for your own requirements. By doing some careful research, looking for what you want to know, you can print a book at the end of your research, which you can carry around with you, which covers everything you need to know. A particular example of an online travel guidebook is www.worldtravelguide.net. This is put together by Columbus, who also supply travel guides to travel companies. So some of the information given is pretty good, but of course it is only basic stuff. The popular destinations are covered better than some of the more obscure ones, but it's a good place to start. There'll be more on using the internet to research travel later in the show. If there's any part of travel that's guaranteed to start a heated conversation, and that's probably talking about hire cars. People assume they're going to get ripped off, or perhaps they think they are being ripped off. Seem to have the same standing in life as perhaps plumbers from the Yellow Pages. But is that really the truth? Are hire companies really ripping you off, or is there a slight misunderstanding in the terms of contract? Well, to get to the bottom of this, I chatted to Toby Poston, who's the head of communications at the BVRLA, and you'll find out what that stands for later in the show, to find out the truth about hire car companies and get some tips so you understand what you're doing, what you're getting the next time you hire a car. Is the correct term car hire or car rental?
It can be either, to be honest. Mm-hmm. There's lots of different terms in use, and lots of different, variations on the basic product. You've got car hire, car rental, car clubs, car sharing. They're all versions of pay-as-you-go motoring that see people obtain the use of a vehicle for anything from a few minutes to a few months.
Okay, pay-as-you-go motoring. I've never heard that phrase before. I'm going to have to keep that one.
Yeah, it's something that we're increasingly seeing, really. Particularly with the rise in sort of urbanisation and more people living in cities, there is a sort of general feeling out there that the sort of cachet of car ownership, particularly in cities, is on the wane, and more people, as technology improves the ability to sort of use a car for short-term periods, using your credit card or having a swipe card to use a car club, that people are saying, actually I can give up either all my cars or even maybe the second or third car and just use car rental or car club as and when I need it.
Okay. Lots of people complain about renting a car, and it's almost as if customers expect they're going to get ripped off. Where do you think this has come from?
I think it comes down to the fact that a lot of the main criteria that customers use when they're looking to hire a car is price. Mm-hmm. So when you go on a web search for car rental, quite often the searches come up according to price, and these prices are accurate. I mean, you are able to drive away the rental car at the price that you see there on the screen. Mm-hmm. However, quite often what happens is that customers then get to the rental counter and they're reminded that they need to pay a bit extra for things like sat-nav or to lower their risk profile and to get lower the sort of excess that's due if they damage the vehicle or if it's stolen. And quite often they're surprised because they haven't read the terms and conditions. Mm-hmm. And this is quite often something that we believe that customers should take a bit more into account. They're taking responsibility for an asset here that is worth many thousands of pounds. Yet very few customers seem to take the time to read the terms and conditions with a car rental booking. Even though hiring a car is as easy as booking a hotel room or reserving a table at a restaurant or booking a plane ticket, it's a very different thing that you're booking.
Yeah, but I was going to come on to about the arrangement. Do you think there's a better way of forcing people to read the terms and conditions instead of just ticking the box?
you can never force people to. All you can do is basically try and use technology on the website, try and write the terms and conditions and the agreement, and make it as clear and transparent as possible. And I know for a fact that's something that rental companies, particularly ones that are dealing with multinational offerings, companies that allow you to book a car in hundreds of locations all across Europe with different terms and conditions in each country, different laws, different regulations. It's a constant battle that they try and give people the up-to-date information on the website, which can be very, very difficult without having a different website for each country, even each location. Which is why we try and make sure that people do read the terms and conditions, because don't assume that the same conditions apply when you're renting a car in London as in Lisbon.
When you're renting a car, what's really expected of the customer? Because I guess they're just thinking about what the company was going to give them, car and stuff. But what is the car hire company expecting from the customer?
Well, as a basic, the customer really is expected to have read their rental agreement and be clear about what they've paid for. When the hire period begins and ends, whether there's any mileage restrictions, what you are liable for in the event of an accident. Going back to my earlier response, if you've got the vehicle at the very lowest price, do you then understand that you might have an excess of £1,000 or £2,000 if you have any damage to the vehicle? You should be aware of what the fuel policy is. Is it a case that you get a full tank and you return it with a full tank, or is it some other sort of fuel policy? As a quid pro quo, the rental company, you should expect them to provide you with a clean, modern, safe vehicle that's been checked before every single hire period. You should expect the rental company to have someone walk around the vehicle with you, have a look inside and out, and note any damage down, and put this on the rental agreement for your peace of mind.
When you get up to the counter, you may be asked for insurances and stuff, and there'll be loads of different acronyms thrown at you. What are the common ones, and what do they mean?
There are too many acronyms, basically, and they're not really important. Different companies use different acronyms, different terms, a bit like other consumer companies use products in their sort of, to get maybe some competitive advantage, or because they think it sounds nice. It's not really important. What is important is that you know what that acronym means, what that product is, whether it's a super damage collision waiver or some other name. Get someone to explain it. If it's not made clear to you at the desk, understand what it is. Is it something that means that you are then not liable for any excess? Does it include windscreen and tyre damage? Get them to explain it. The important thing is to understand what level of risk you have and be comfortable with it when you take that vehicle. Some people are happy having full risk, so that they are liable for any damage that occurs to the vehicle. Other people, especially if they're going abroad, value the peace of mind of knowing they're paying a bit extra, but any damage is caused, they're not liable for it.
So it's not really a way of getting extra money from the customer. It's a way of helping them reduce the risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Drive Time Show with Nigel G every Monday to Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. online at seclosounds.org. The best mix of music and fun to wind down your day. Listen out for a slice of cheese, the rotten tomato, and remember the bees. Intrigued? Don't miss the Drive Time Show with Nigel G every Monday to Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. on seclosounds.org.
You're listening to the Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. You can contact the show via facebook.com/Guinn Travel Show. Still to come is more on using the internet to research travel and an interview I did about British Columbia. But first, back to Toby and hire car companies, and we're talking about scams that perhaps customers try out. I used to know somebody who worked in a tool hire shop, and he used to tell me about the scams that customers try to get out of paying bits and pieces, like squeezing the carpet shampoo bottle to make the level higher than it actually is and that sort of thing. Are there any sort of general scams that customers try on with hire companies?
I mean, like all industries, you get proper fraudsters who target industries, and we've had cases where people use fake IDs. You get gangs going around the UK who use fake IDs to hire expensive cars and then pack them off in a crate to other parts of Europe or abroad. And in the past, we've had cases of people actually spotting rental cars or vans in particular that have a logo on the side on people's driveways, and they'd actually turn up to the doorstep, claim to be from that rental company, and say, oh, there's been a safety recall on this vehicle, I have to take it off and bring you a new one tomorrow morning. And then, of course, the customer hands the keys and never sees the van again, or the car again, neither does the rental company. So that's, if you like, organised fraud. Yeah. Apart from that, I think most customers are pretty reasonable. The common issues that companies, complain about is probably when people return cars late, or they return them, really dirty with bits of mouldy fruit in there, or covered in sand, or things like that, or try and hide damage. But that's a sort of common issue that people come up with.
Okay. So some of it's really serious, and some of it's a little bit daft.
Yeah.
In the basic car agreement, is there a standard sort of agreement of what's supplied and what isn't?
Yeah, you'll usually find that roadside assistance is included, motor insurance, the fuel you usually get. There's usually no limit on the mileage you can travel, but other things aren't. So things like travelling abroad will usually involve an extra charge, and you need to tell the rental company you're doing that. And you'll usually have to take a particular form called a V103 form, which is a form that's required on the continent if you're taking a rental car abroad. You have to have a registration document in every car on the continent. Obviously, a rental company is not going to give all the rental customers this document, because it then means they can go off with the car and they've got the registration document. So they have a substitute which is called a V103. And other things that will usually be extra, things like sat-navs, child seats, having an extra driver. So again, it's just about checking your agreement. They'll usually be pretty explicit about what is and isn't included.
You mentioned about Europe, and different countries appear to have different rules about what should or shouldn't be carried in a vehicle. Who's responsible for ensuring that the right equipment is on board?
The rental company is responsible for ensuring that the vehicle meets local laws in the country it's hired in. So if you take a car aboard, it's your responsibility. And we and all our members would usually advise you to go to something like the AA website and check what is required in each country. So whether it's things like fluorescent jackets, or extra light bulb, or a safety triangle, or a breathalyzer kit, those sorts of things.
So check with the AA anyway before, even if you're hiring abroad, so at least you know what you should.
Yeah, they've got a fantastic website that also includes information about local sort of congestion charges and other sort of particular driving rules or speed limits, or other sort of nuances that different countries might have in their motoring regime.
We mentioned risk a little while ago, and sometimes you can get insurance, and then you get offered another insurance which seems to insure you against the insurance you've taken out in the first place. But you can also get insurance through third parties annually. Is the annual insurance worth having? Because I have heard, but I've got no proof, that some companies refuse to recognise it when you go and collect the car.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to know the difference between a waiver and an insurance product. Most rental companies are not offering you insurance. They're offering you a no-quibble waiver. So that means if you have an accident and you've got super damage cover, whatever the acronym is, you won't pay for the damage. You're saying that you are not liable for any of that damage unless it's caused by your own negligence. So if you're off-roading across a canyon and you smash the car up, then obviously you are liable because you're being negligent. But otherwise you are not liable. With a third-party insurance product, I think you're talking about, you will have to pay for any damage. You'll have to pay the rental company for any damage to that vehicle and then claim it back.
Okay.
And that means you've got to get the right paperwork together, or make sure the details are there. You might have to get a police report, third-party witnesses, all that sort of stuff. And obviously, we know what it's like claiming back on insurance. It's not always as smooth as it seems.
So it's a waiver and it's not an insurance. So there's a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cleared something up for me. I should know better. When people going abroad, is it is it more convenient and cheaper to book with a UK-based company or get it locally?
It depends. We usually say that it's always better to book in advance for a peak holiday period, but you can get last-minute bargains during quiet periods. We would usually advise to to book with a BVLA member, and some of our members do offer, you to book in foreign countries, just because you've got the reassurance of our conciliation service at the end of it, and obviously it's easier with a recognised company. You probably got a better, more security in terms of them offering safe, modern, clean vehicles than a company that you've never heard of.
You mentioned about the consolidation service. What happens if you've got a complaint against the hire car company?
Yeah, so we've been running a conciliation service in the UK for our members, and we represent sort of about 85-90% of the UK by fleet size. And that's a service for when you've got a dispute with your rental company. We always recommend that you go and try and resolve that issue with them first. But if you get to an impasse where they've given you their judgment, you don't agree with it, we then run a dispute resolution service that will arbitrate on behalf of both parties and come out with a resolution. We can't enforce sort of damages on the rental company. What we can do is hold them account to our code of conduct, and if we think they're not justified in a charge they've made or something else they've done, then they have to abide by our ruling. The customer doesn't have to abide. It's a free service, and if you don't agree with the result, you're still free as a customer to go and seek redress through the legal system.
You said your members is at the BVRLA.
Yeah.
What does that stand for, please?
If I could just first talk about we also offer a European service.
Yep. Okay.
So we talked about the UK service. The European service is called the European Car Rental Conciliation Service, and this is for cross-border complaints. So if you have if you're someone from UK renting in Spain or France or Italy with one of the big multinational companies, so this is Avis, Alamo, Budget, National, Europcar, Hertz, Sixt or Firefly, you can use this service in a similar way, and that you can find that at ecrcs.eu.
Are there similar schemes around the world, like in the States?
Not that we know of, no. I mean, it's something that definitely the European Commission is looking at introducing across all sort of consumer areas. They quite like the idea of having conciliation services. You have similar sort of things in some other sectors, but we're not aware of any other countries or continents having car rental conciliation services.
Okay. Right. Now back onto the BVRLA.
Yeah.
I think I said that right.
So that stands for British Vehicle Rental and Leasing Association. We're a trade body, as well as representing the car rental and van rental sector. We also represent the leasing sector. So this is for people who lease cars, vans, or trucks as well on contract hire or salary sacrifice schemes. And we're slightly different from a lot of trade associations in that we have a mandatory code of conduct. So people who join the BVLA actually choose to have almost an element of self-regulation in what they do. So this means we have a code of conduct that ensures that customers have to be given the highest standards of service, fair terms and conditions, transparent information, and a complaint resolution service. They have to supply safe and roadworthy vehicles, have to have accurate advertising, and if they don't adhere to that code, they can get expelled. We also run a quality assurance program that means that members' sites get inspected on a regular basis. We'll turn up, inspect their maintenance records, check vehicles over, and ensure that they're roadworthy.
How would somebody know that their hire company's a member?
You can ask. We have a member directory on our website at bvrla.co.uk that you can check through. We also have a searchable directory there that you can find your nearest BVLA member, and they should also have a logo displayed in all their outlets.
Is there any other useful information you have on your website for travellers?
Yeah, we have lots of useful information. If you again click onto bvrla.co.uk, click on advice. We've got a whole section full of consumer advice that customers are free to go and have a look at.
After the recording, Toby mentioned about companies that seem to spring up during peak times, Christmas and summer holidays, offering unbelievable deals on hiring cars. Unfortunately, some of the times these unbelievable deals are from unbelievable companies because they don't actually exist. They're just there as a scam to rip people off. So if you see a deal which is way off everybody else's, do think twice before you hand over your credit card details. Check out the company, Google it, see if there's any stories on it. Check the BVRLA to see if they're a member of the organisation. Don't just be blinded by the cheap price. Do be careful and do check it out. And the websites that Toby mentioned will be on the facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Still to come are more thoughts on using the internet to research travel. But first, British Columbia. It's part of Canada, if you weren't sure. Last year I spoke to Jane Fraser from the British Columbia Tourist Board to find out more about the destination, to find out what it has to offer the visitor from the UK. I'm with Jane Fraser, a travel trade coordinator for Tourism British Columbia. Just for those who don't know, where is British Columbia?
So we are British Columbia, we're the most westerly province in Canada. So if you think most people know Ontario, Toronto, Niagara Falls, that's far east, we're far west. So we're bordered by the Pacific Ocean to the left and the Rockies to the east.
Okay. Is there any large towns or anything in Vancouver?
The most known would be Vancouver. Vancouver has a population of 2 million people, and BC in general has a population of 4.5 million.
So not many?
No. So once you come outside Vancouver, Whistler, Vancouver Islands, it's less people. But the hilarious thing is about BC, you go through these what I call villages, but they're cities. So if 5,000 people live there, it's classed as a city. Not like here at home, where you have to have a cathedral and
And a few more than 5,000 people.
Yeah.
Could visitors to British Columbia do it in 1 week? Is it possible?
I would say no.
No.
Absolutely not. The average stay in BC is 14 to 17 days.
Okay.
You think British Columbia is, let's have a look how much big it is. So Vancouver Island is about the size of England. So it takes you 8 hours to drive from the capital Victoria up to the northern part of the island. To travel across the island from east to west takes you 4 hours.
Okay.
British Columbia is about 4 times the size of Great Britain. And people want to go for the wildlife, the scenery, the Rockies. And the Rockies is as if you're going towards Alberta, which is our neighbouring province. So we have this big thing with Alberta, who owns the Rockies. But BC, we said we do because the highest peak of the Rockies is in our province. So don't ever let Alberta tell you different.
Oh, wow.
So if you are travelling around, you know, people are going to probably start in our gateway city, Vancouver, and you're probably going to spend a couple of nights in Vancouver. It's a great city, you don't need a car, it's easy to get around. To go over to Vancouver Island, you can get the ferry, it takes 90 minutes, and it's a great time to actually see whales, walk whales. While you're on the island, it's good to have a car. But you can also float plane while you're on the island, which is a nice way to get to the west coast. But actually on the mainland, you will need a car once you get out of Vancouver and Whistler.
Okay, is it easy to hire a car out there?
Also RVs
Okay.
are very popular. You can even hire houseboats from the interior. You have some amazing lakes. So if you've got your clients, especially families, hiring an RV and you want to have a break for a couple of days driving, you can park up your RV at one of the lakes, you can hire a houseboat. And they all have slides.
Yeah, I never would have thought of that.
They usually have a drive-in grocery store on the lake.
Just trying to picture that right now.
I know, as long as you're not driving, that's
Yeah.
what matters. But they do have a company for international visitors. They will arrange all the bedding and some groceries on board for you. And that's how the Canadians holiday.
Yeah.
You know, they go into the interior, they hire houseboats, some have properties there. And you know, in the summer it gets very warm.
So there's plenty to do.
There's plenty to do, and the climate varies.
So when you think about it, you just think of snow, don't you?
You do, because I think Whistler is so iconic, and Whistler traditionally was a summer destination. Ski is quite new to Whistler,
Okay.
but it's just iconic. You know, it has the longest ski season. But in BC, you always have snow at the top of the mountains. And that's what I quite like. You know, you're walking around in shorts and t-shirts and you're looking up and, you know, there's snow.
Yeah, I'm from England, I'm not used to that.
See, I like the snow, but it's a different type. It depends. You know, if you're on the west coast, the snow tends to be like wet snow. But if you're on the interior of BC, it's very dry. We call it champagne snow. It's light and fluffy.
Yeah.
And then when you get into the Rockies, it's like, I call it popcorn snow, so when it hits you. So for people that do want to ski, you know, and if you're learning to ski, it's a great place because group lessons are much smaller. It's like, for Whistler it's 3 or less in a group.
Okay.
In the tier it's 6 or less. Go to Europe, you're looking at 12 plus.
Yeah.
And you fall a lot when you're learning to ski. So if you're falling nice, soft champagne powder, you don't hurt yourself.
I've had that. Oh,
You have to try it.
I'll have to give it a go because I've never done skiing.
It's good. It's good for fitness, and then you have the après ski afterwards, and then you just makes up for it.
That's not good for fitness at all.
Well, you've worked all those calories off during the day, and then you just serve your nachos and your beer and your wine.
I'll be too delicate the next morning.
Listen to the Sticks Radio Show with me, Terry Sullivan, here on Sept Sounds every Monday from 10 a.m. with guests from the world of entertainment and sport across hearts, beds and bucks. The Sticks Radio Show online at seclosounds.org.
MK Flyers Online, the fast and simple way to find any kind of business or service locally. Find us at mkflyersonline.co.uk or download the MK Flyers mobile app from your app store. MK Flyers Online proudly supports Seclo Sounds, community radio for Milton Keynes.
As British Columbia is so large, what's the best way of getting around?
I would definitely say an RV. You can rent different sizes. People are always a little bit worried about hiring an RV because of the size of the vehicle. When you arrive, the staff will take you out, so they'll make sure that you're 100% comfortable with driving. It's anything, it's just something that's quite new.
Yeah.
The roads in BC are very wide, they're well signposted. Once you get out of Vancouver, you don't see hardly any traffic. So that's the good thing, you know, no one travels at speed. Everyone's more leisurely because it's so beautiful. You also have designated rest break stops. So they're well signposted, you can pull off the road, stop. Some have like picnic sites, they've got the tables laid out, there's barbecue set up. So it's a good way if you've got something you don't want to say, right, we want to be here this night, you could actually just go out on the road.
Yeah, all perfectly safe as well?
Yeah, all perfectly safe. If on our website, which is britishcolumbia.travel, we have a list of approved accommodation. So if you don't want to book RV parks in advance, you can print off the list from there, and you'll see a sign which has the logo saying approved accommodation. Then you know that that's been checked. Some just have RV, just have like space for you to park up, and some will have that you can hook up.
What about fuel stations? Are they regular?
Yeah. Definitely, and it's always best. I mean, when you collect your RV, the staff will go through this with you to make sure, you know, and they can also help you with your itinerary. They can also lend you iPads.
Lend?
Yes, well, you have to pay a charge because make sure you bring it back. But they can actually put your routes that you're going to take on your iPad. Okay. So it's a good way. I think it's Kind of Dream does this. I actually have it on my iPad, and it gives you different routes. But if you have a specific route, they'll put it on the iPad for you, you have a higher charge. And also our website has driving routes. It tells you how far you're driving every day, and also points of interest and places you may want to stop. Okay. So that's a good way, so then you know when you get to this particular town or city where you know that that's the time that you need to. The next day you might be driving a much longer distance to make sure you have enough fuel.
Good. What about wildlife? Would you see much wildlife while you're driving around in your RV?
You will. The best, it's hard to say what best time is because people go want to see, especially with bears, people might want to see the bears when they come out of hibernation, the mum bears with the cubs. When you come to the later part of the season, the cubs are quite big at that point, they're fattening up, and it's the salmon months. It really depends on what you want to see. If you want to see like grey whales and minke whales, then the west coast of Vancouver Island is a good place, and that's like March, April.
Okay.
Orca whales, we have about 5 pods of orcas that reside off the southern tip of Vancouver Island. So it's very popular for people to take tours from Vancouver or Victoria. And those tours tend to start May to mid-October. Humpback whales you can see at the north part of Vancouver Island and up the Inside Passage up to northern BC, and that takes you up to Alaska. And then that's come at the same time of year, May to October. But with bears, I mean, I've just come back from Whistler and we saw a black bear. We're having a walk around Lost Lake. And they do put sightings out to say, you know, this bear's been spotted today. And so you don't necessarily have to stay at like a bear viewing lodge to see bears. You will see wildlife while you're driving. If it's quite hot, the best time to see bears would be the morning.
Okay.
Because it gets quite warm. The bears tend to then go amongst the trees.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, it's like they go for the afternoon nap. I've seen quite a few bears come into Port Hardy on the top part of Vancouver Island. That was May time. I think the best time for me ever was the VRL from Prince Rupert to Jasper. It's a 2-day trip. And I saw over 20 bears in 2 days.
Yeah.
And that was May.
Nice.
So the bears were coming down the mountain to find food. But we do have some amazing lodges, like Night Inlet. You float plane in from Campbell River. You stay there. The minimum packet's like 3 nights. And they take you out on the boat and you see the bears along the coastline, you know, clawing at the rocks, trying to find what's underneath. And then in September it's the salmon run, so you're in the high platform huts watching the salmon come down screaming. All the bears are there waiting to
Have you seen that?
I have seen that, and it is actually pretty amazing. But you kind of feel for the salmon. It's kind of because there've been quite a good few documentaries on the BBC about the salmon run and the whole history of the bears. But it's all the circle of life. You know, what's left of the salmon feeds the waterbeds, which feeds the trees. But you feel for the salmon, they're the ones that don't really have the best.
No, that's pretty hard on them, isn't it, getting all that way?
But for the bears, they rely on the salmon to keep them through the winter.
Okay, what about a spirit bear?
The spirit bear or Commodie bear, First Nations people call them spirit bears. You can only see them in the coastal parts of BC, the central coastal parts. So it's kind of like Bella Coola. There are 2 properties. There's King Pacific Lodge, and that's September and October. It really is a short window to see a Commodie bear. Depends on your budget. You know, it's going to these properties. They are very exclusive, limited of how many guests they can have.
Okay.
But it's definitely it'd be once in a lifetime for someone to go to like King Pacific Lodge.
Okay. Have you ever seen a spirit bear?
I haven't.
No.
It's on my wish list.
I have to keep going back then.
Yeah, for sure. But I have, I've seen quite a few grizzlies, and I don't think you realise actually how big they are till you actually see one.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on Sept Sounds. Still to come is the show's final instalment on using the internet to book travel. But at the moment I'm talking to Jane Fraser from the British Columbia Tourist Board, and we're now going to start talking about wine.
You have about a 12.5 mile stretch of wineries. So we're in the tier of the province down from Kelowna to Ossois, which is right on the border of Washington. If you're like me and you don't drive and you like your wine, it's absolutely heaven. You have the biggest winery is probably Mission Hill, which is owned by an Italian family, and you have small, cute little family-run wineries. Some have properties on site, so you can stay. Some have space for an RV. Definitely worth going. The majority of the wineries offer you free tastings. The ones that may charge you $5, you get that off if you buy anything from the shop. The sad thing about the wineries is that the locals will drink it, so there's never enough to come over here.
So you're not going to see it at Tesco's?
No.
Oh.
There was for a small time some Mission Hill and Waitrose, but it's really tough because when you go to one, you see all the locals going there and they're just stocking up boxes and boxes of wine. We're also famous for our ice wine, which is like the dessert wine. It's quite syrupy. You've probably had it if you've been to like Turkey, you know, when they just give you a drink on the house. You don't have much because it is very sweet.
Okay.
It's very expensive. You're looking for probably a very slim bottle, you're probably looking at about £100.
Okay, out of my budget.
But it's not something you would juggle up like I would with a glass of wine. But it's definitely worth going to the wineries. Even if you have children, a lot of people think, oh, it's not the right place for a child to be. But they do tours through the vineyards. And also they grow fruit as well. And they do have special menus for children. You also have cideries as well. So it's not just it's adults. People going to get drunk. People go there to have the tour. There's a First Nation winery in Osoyoos, which I definitely recommend. And a visit to the cultural centre, and you get to learn about the whole history of the First Nations people, how they look after the land, they respect the land, because it basically gives them everything that they need.
Yeah. Okay. Nightlife. We mentioned Vancouver a little while ago. What's the nightlife like?
The nightlife, I'd probably say, is more Vancouver, Whistler, because there's lots of bars. I think London still probably has with the music scene. You know, the UK is quite diverse, but you know, Michael Blueberry's from Vancouver. My
brother-in-law lives just outside Vancouver in Merritt. He's into country music. Very big.
That's not my kind of cup of tea. We've got Nelly Furtado. Do you know Pam Addison's from Victoria?
No, I didn't.
But she's not musical, but there's lots of nightlife in Vancouver and also Whistler.
Is that all in the downtown area?
Well, Whistler would be all in the village, and Yaletown's probably a good place to go out if you're looking for music. They're very keen on their jazz.
Okay.
So the Lister Hotel in Vancouver has a jazz bar, and so does the one in Whistler. And usually find there's a queue all the way out the door. It's very popular.
That good. Okay.
Yeah. So you need to be a guest at the hotel, and it's easy for you to get in.
Big plug. We haven't actually said how you get there. What's it like flying to British Columbia?
You can fly. You have British Airways and Air Canada fly all year round.
Okay.
For this year, which was new, was Virgin Atlantic. They fly to late October 4 times a week, which, you know, is the biggest news for us to have another airline. You know, Virgin is such a good brand, so we're very excited about that. We also have Air Transat.
Okay.
It's a Canadian airline. They fly during the summer from London, Manchester, and Glasgow, and then during the winter they fly from Gatwick. So you do have the choice flying from Heathrow or Gatwick.
How long does it take?
It's 9.5 hours there.
Okay.
And then coming back, the tailwind is 8.5. So people always kind of presume, because we are on the west coast and so is LA, we're more of 11-hour flights. The good thing about arriving to Vancouver, it's a 9.5 flight, but to get to downtown, it takes you half an hour. So you're not far from the city.
Okay, it's pretty. There's one or two people have always said to me that you fly into Seattle and go across the border.
You can. Seattle's another gateway, and it's great because you can catch the boat, the Victoria Clipper, to Vancouver Island. So that's another way if you've got clients that want to kind of break it up a bit. You can also go to Hawaii as well. So if you've got clients that are looking for twin center holidays, they could therefore include Hawaii, which is popular obviously for ski. If people want to ski, we call it ski and surf.
Okay, never thought of that. Perhaps I'll try that.
Join DJ Escudero for My Latinesque Show on Seclo Sounds every Saturday from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. For everything cool and hot, Latin and local, it's Seclo Sounds with DJ Escudero. Para todo cool y caliente, latino y local, escucha a DJ Escudero en Seclo Sounds.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. You can contact the show via Twitter at holiday_hut.
What would you say would be the best thing to do while you go out there?
The best thing to do definitely would be to see the Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
I think Canadian Rockies is just so iconic. And for me, growing up, I always wanted to stay in a lodge in the Canadian Rockies. And Emerald Lake Lodge, which is located in Field, is beautiful. It just, each cabin has a real log fire,
mm-hmm.
and that's what I always. And it has the big, and it's called Emerald Lake because the lake is emerald, is fed by the glaciers. It's that crystal blue.
Okay.
So that to me is that real iconic Canadian experience.
Spend a few nights in the Rockies then.
It is. I mean, the Rockies is just such amazing. I think most people are kind of aware of like Banff and Lake Louise, but Banff's very commercial. But for me, I wanted. That's too commercial. I'm a city girl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, when you grow up, you just want that log, and you just want that lake, and you don't want anything else.
Okay. It's
just kind of like chill, and you can take boats out onto the lake, have a nice walk round. Make sure you have your BC wine with you and some cheese and crackers, and it's very popular. But also, on the west coast, Vancouver Island, the west coast of the island, Tofino and Ucluelet is beautiful. Some beautiful beaches,
mm-hmm.
and people wouldn't associate with beaches. I mean, there's a beach in Vancouver, so definitely say the west coast of Vancouver Island is definitely some amazing properties.
Mm-hmm.
Twilight was filmed in Tofino, also in Vancouver. And then I think my next thing would be cycle around the seawall in Stanley Park in Vancouver. So it's like the largest urban park in North America,
mm-hmm.
and it's 10k all the way around the seawall.
I'd get a bus.
You can get the bus, but you can get the bikes with a little trolley at the back, so you could lie in one of those. But every time I go to Vancouver, I either jog round it or I hire a bike.
That's too much like hard work.
It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and it has different trails. And I've probably spent a total of 7 days in Stanley Park, and I still haven't seen it all.
No.
And it's just beautiful. And you've got the Vancouver Aquarium located. They've got some nice restaurants, but you wouldn't think you were in Vancouver. It's just like a park, and it's got its own rainforest. That's the beauty about it. It's
mm-hmm.
like it's everyone's back garden. And everyone is so considerate of other people, so you have like the walking lane and the cycle lane. And
not like around London then?
No, the cyclists going through the lights, mountain payments, but that's another subject. I'll start ranting about cyclists.
No, don't do that.
You find even with the buses, they have bike stands, so if you're getting on the bike with your bus, you hook your bike to the front.
Mm-hmm.
You can also get around by Aquabus, Fort Creek, and they all take bikes as well. So they're very... I think they're just one step ahead of us, really. That they do. People basically do live quite a healthy lifestyle. Well, fruit is all. It's all there. Everything's produced locally,
mm-hmm.
and obviously fish, salmon. They've put the stamp on that they're the salmon city of the world, and I think Seattle kind of does the same. But it's all fresh produce.
Okay.
You can't really be lazy when you've got mountains on your doorstep and the Pacific Ocean.
No, I don't suppose you can.
Yeah.
Any websites mentioned either during the hire car feature or on British Columbia will be listed on the facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show Facebook page. And now the final instalment of this show's bit on my views on using the internet to research travel. Another website to use for choosing a location is the Foreign Commonwealth Office, because they do travel warnings for every recognised country in the world. Travel warnings aren't just the fact it's don't go there because of terrorism, but it gives you advice on petty crime as well, maybe hate driving, other bits and pieces that could be very useful. Of course, they are trying to be overcautious, so if you're put off by what the Foreign and Commonwealth Office says, have a look at what it says about a country you visited recently to see what they say about that. That'll give you an idea about whether or not you should be concerned about the destination. And the website for this has just changed. It's www.gov.uk/FCO. Another great source for finding information about destinations are blogs. Now, as far as I'm concerned, a blog is written by an amateur who wishes to share information. A professional company writes a blog, it's really just a veiled advert, and it might not be as well-rounded as an amateur would have done. So blogs can tell you about a nice little cafe which is off the beaten track. It can tell you about scams in the area. Might recommend a guide that they use to get shown around the city centre. All sorts of information can be found on blogs. That could take a while to find, but it's worth looking out, and once you find somebody who writes a blog and you like it, you may find it entertaining to keep up to date with what they're doing. Of course, when it comes to the destinations you're going to, you should also check out the health requirements. A good website for this is www.fitfortravel.scot.nhs.uk. This was recommended to me by a medical student as being far superior to the English NHS website. And of course you also need to know about the entry requirements as well. So you need to find the embassy websites for the countries you're going to find out if you need any visas, whether you need to have a certain period left on your passport, whether you need any blank pages for visa on entry, and other bits and pieces. Visit the embassy websites. You can Google the embassy, United States Embassy London, Brazil Embassy London. Google that. Be careful, there are some commercial websites which don't masquerade as the official ones, but they may appear to be the official ones, so be careful. Or there's directories you can go to, www.mpage.org, which is EMB, then page.org, or www.embassyworld.com. But neither are comprehensive, so Google might get you out of trouble. Please be aware that entry requirements can change overnight, so you need to keep an eye on it. Don't book and forget. Keep checking it before you depart. A South African I know chose a particular island because he didn't need a visa, but a couple of weeks before he was due to fly out there, it changed and he did need one. If he wasn't keeping up to date, he would have found that he couldn't get there. Of course, once you've found the right destination, you want to check the weather. There's quite a few websites out there. My particular favourite is weatherbase.com. Some resorts need some detective work because the names don't match up with the website. But it tells you about the average weathers, average highs, average lows, how much rain. Sometimes the rain is given in, it rains so many days a month, which isn't that useful. But it's far better than what you used to get in the travel brochures, which is a little square picture with a graph saying this much sun in London, this much sun here. This much rain in London, this much rain here. Very basic. Websites like Weatherbase, you can get quite comprehensive information on the weather for your chosen destination. So when you're happy about where you want to go, how to get in, the medical stuff you need, and the weather, of course now you need to find somewhere to sleep. And I'll share my views on how to do that in the next show. You're listening to Sept Sounds, your community radio for Milton Keynes. You can read more about us and our presenters in this month's edition of MK Pulse, our publishing partner. Written and produced by local people, MK Pulse is a monthly magazine local to Buckinghamshire that enables you to advertise to over 25,000 homes and businesses, approximately 75,000 readers. If it isn't delivered to your door, you can visit www.mkpulse.co.uk. Well, thank you for listening to the John Guinn Travel Show, dear listener. Please join me next time, Monday, 12 o'clock, on seclosounds.org, when I'll be giving the concluding part of my series on using the internet to research holidays. And I'll also be sharing with you news and views of the wonderful world of travel.
MK Pulse proudly sponsors Seclo Sounds. MK Pulse is Milton Keynes' local magazine, bringing helpful information on food, health, fashion, money, travel, culture, and much more to 66,000 readers every month. Plus news, views, and what's on from around the city. If it's happening in Milton Keynes, it's in MK Pulse, and it's available online at www.mkpulse.co.uk. MK Pulse and Seclo Sounds, the heart and soul of the city.